Greetings, viewers. JLB here, back after a long overdue, or overdone hiatus, excuse me. I'm finally back to talk about the shows of 1963, because Season 2 of Animated Television History Tour, which you are watching, is back. And to start off the year 1963, we are talking about the very first show that aired on New Year's Day of 1963, January the 1st, 1963, but it's not an American show. Oh, no. We're going to the Orient, as it was called back then. That's right, the land of the rising sun, Japan, to talk about the one show that has had a cult following in both Japan and the US back in the 60s. Well, it started the trend of shows in Japan gaining a bit of a following here in the US, if they were aired in the US, that is, with an English dub. But anyway, on this episode, we're talking about Tetsuwan Atomu, or properly known as Atom Boy, or as we in the US call him, Astro Boy. So what's the story with Astro Boy? Well, the story starts in the year 2000, about 40 years from when the show was created, and about 20 years ago for us in the present, when Dr. Tenma, a scientist working in the Ministry of Science's Department of Precision Machinery, lost his son Tobio in a car crash. So, he decided to create a super robot in Tobio's likeness. Now, of course, this creation was the most advanced that anyone had ever seen. However, Dr. Tenma wasn't exactly all too pleased with it because of the fact that it didn't grow up. And ultimately, in a fit of rage, he sold his creation off to a circus. After that, he ended up losing his job at the Ministry of Science, and, well, rarely ever in the show does he ever appear. But he did harness a complicated relationship towards robotics, mainly believing that they should be treated as humans, not as the slaves of humans. However, this show actually follows that robot that I mentioned. In the circus that this robot was sold to, where robotics exist but are a lot more primitively made than Tobio, who by that point got the nickname of Atom, hence the name Atom Boy, they were forced to participate in fighting tournaments similar to battles between gladiators in the Roman Colosseum. However, Atom, he wanted to be a more peaceful sentient robot, and eventually he ran into one Professor Okanomizu, the man who succeeded Dr. Tenma as the head of the Ministry of Science. Okanomizu was treated much more differently than Tenma, being regarded as a, how do I put it, a bit of a savior figure by the robots for his affection and kindness towards them that Tenma didn't really possess. So, after realizing how advanced Atom was compared to the other robots, he set him free from the circus and became a bit of a father to him, and, well, the rest is history. But how did the show come about? Well, if you want the origin of where Astro Boy came from, you gotta go back. Back to 1951. Back when Astro Boy was just a character in a manga of the same name, created by Osamu Tezuka, referred in Japan as the God of Manga. Of course, the manga was well received back in those days, because, you gotta understand, during that time, the United States was helping Japan get back on its feet after World War II, helping them start up their own toy business, and, in short, it helped them start the so-called craze in Japan for robots, which ultimately led to the creation of Astro Boy, and, well, the rest is history when it comes to robots and superheroes in Japan. But anyway, how was the show received in Japan? Well, like I said, the show debuted on New Year's Day, 1963, Thursday, January 1st, Thursday, 1963. And, well, it became the first popular Japanese anime. And this is ultimately the show that created the term, if not the aesthetic. Well, yeah, this show actually created the aesthetic we know today as anime. So, if you're watching Mobile Suit Gundam, Digimon, Pokémon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Bakugan, Beyblade, K-On!, Hunter x Hunter, Fairy Tail, or even some of the Studio Ghibli films like that we'll be talking about later, much later actually, like My Neighbor Totoro, Kiki's Delivery Service, Ponyo, Nausicaa. You got Astro Boy to thank, because if it weren't for Astro Boy, well, anime probably wouldn't even exist. But anyway, the show, it became, at the height of its popularity during the 4 seasons that it aired, with 193 episodes total, about 40% of the Japanese population who had access to a TV watched Astro Boy. Now, of course, in 1964, a year after Astro Boy premiered, there was a feature-length anime movie that was released in Japan called Mighty Atom, The Brave in Space, or as called in Japan, Tetsuwan Atomu, Uchu no Yusha. It consisted of 3 of the cartoon episodes, all put together. And of course, these episodes were The Robot Spaceship, Last Day on Earth, and Earth Defense Squadron. The latter 2 episodes were made in color. But the show, it came on strong and ended well, almost the way it began, because the final episode aired on Saturday, December 31st, 1966, New Year's Eve. Oh, and might I add, this coming January 1st just happens to be the 57th birthday of Astro Boy. So, I want to extend a bit of a happy birthday to the creation of Osamu Tezuka, and a very special arigato for creating such an iconic character, and for basically creating anime. But anyway, after Astro Boy enjoyed success in both Japan and abroad as the first anime to be broadcast overseas, Astro Boy was ultimately remade under the name New Mighty Atom, and then in 2003 as Astro Boy Mighty Atom. But we'll get to those when we get to the 80s and the 2000s. But for now, I think it's safe to say that without Astro Boy, there probably wouldn't be any anime today. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned because we're going to be talking a bit about a few more shows that, for those of you who grew up in the 60s, might be familiar with. Oh, but before I go, there was an English version of the show that was released over here in the US. NBC Enterprises actually settled on the name Astro Boy after discussions between producer Fred Ladd and the representatives of NBC. And of the first 124 episodes created, at least 104 were adapted into the English language. It was initially syndicated on US TV from June 22nd, 1963 through June 4th, 1965, with repeats continuing until the series was withdrawn from syndication in the early 70s. And of course, Astro Boy wasn't forgotten for long because, I'm not sure, but possibly like Star Trek, before it or after it, I don't know, it probably gained more popularity when it went into syndication, just like Star Trek did when it went into syndication after it ended its 3-season run. Now, of course, in 2007, 8, and 9, Cartoon would broadcast and webcast this syndicated version of the show as part of its late-night lineup, which is the Adult Swim lineup, and I will not be getting to on the show because adult cartoons are strictly out. Just for context, so no Simpsons, no Family Guy, no American Dad, none of that. But anyway, now that wraps up the episode. Thank you very much for watching, and definitely keep your ears and eyes open because we're going to be talking about a few more classic shows here on this channel. So until then, sayonara.